experienced this with his full support. For as long as I can remember, he has been involved with the BIU, even before I even knew what that acronym even meant. And as a young kid, I often confused the BIU with the BUEI, and thinking that my father worked with fish and other marine life. But as I grew a little older, I recall thinking that my father's job was the most boring in the world, because all he did was dress up, answer phones, and was constantly in meetings. With his desk filled with paperwork and always something to do, I often disappeared to the ground floor of the BIU building, to the Liberty Theater, to either eat popcorn or share a movie, as I thought that was more exciting. But I also remember the day he was elected as the president of the BIU, and now I finally began to have a clear understanding and appreciation for what he does. A busy man, to say the least, his daily role was to secure and maintain the safety and surety of our workforce in Bermuda. All of those phone calls and meetings that I once thought were pointless began to have so much more meaning. Yes, I've seen the levels of pressure and stress that come with the job, but somehow this man continues to deliver what he does day in and day out. I think we all can agree when I say that somehow I think he loves what he does. Don't ask me why. But as a young man with still a lot to learn, I realized that my father has a specific way of teaching and sharing things with me and the rest of his children. I say this because he's managed to teach me so much by saying so little. He has led by example and shown me how to be a man rather than just telling me. And I now owe the man that I am today to him. So I say thank you, Dad. So without further delay, because I know his patience can be a bit short, please help me in welcoming the President of the Bermuda Industrial Union, Brother Chris Furbert.
No, you think I'm going to be able to talk? Well, first of all, let me thank my son for that introduction. Initially, when he asked me if he could introduce the speaker, initially it was supposed to be, we was looking for a female speaker, and we couldn't find one. And then I told him about, it looks like you're going to be introducing your dad. So I think that based on the introductions even, you be the judge. I think he done real justice to his father. Thank you. At this time, I would also like to thank my family who is also here, my mother, my brother, my niece, who are sitting at table number 5, right over here. I would like to thank them for coming out and supporting BIU Labor Day Banquet this evening, and of course me being the speaker. So I stand here tonight. It's a great honor to stand here tonight at the BIU's 35th Annual Labor Day Banquet. In 1982, and you'll see this in your program in the back, but I'm just highlighting a couple of the speakers that we've had over the years. In 1982, we had the mayor of Atlanta, Andrew Young. In 1995, we had Reverend Otis Morse III from the AME Church. He talked about passing the torch to the next generation. In 1997, we had Reverend Wilbur Lowe Jr. from the AME Church. And in 1999, we had the Premier of Bermuda, Dame Jennifer Smith, PLP. In 2012, we had the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, the Honorable Baldwin Spencer. And in 2013, we had Reverend Nicholas Genevieve Tweed, pastor of St. Paul's AME Church, who is sitting at the head table this evening. In 2014, we had the Honorable Dr. Ua Brown, former Premier of Bermuda. And last year, we had the President of the BPSU, Brother Jason Haven, who is sitting in the audience tonight. And now I stand here tonight as the keynote speaker and president of the BIU as we celebrate 70 years of service to our members and to the people of Bermuda. Brother Adi has apologized that he couldn't be with us this evening. He had to leave the island and be away. But certainly, as the current president of the BIU and having be fortunate enough to be the first BIU president to speak at a Labor Day banquet, certainly wanted to have Brother Adi and Brother Derek to be with us tonight. As you see, Brother Derek's at the head table. And if Brother Adi was here in Bermuda, he also would have been at the head table tonight to pay respect to the 35th Annual Labor Day Banquet. I will speak on four topics this evening, and I think they should be of concern to every Bermudian. Allow me to open and share with you a short quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. And the quote says, "The labor movement was the principal force that transformed misery and despair into hope and progress." What would happen if the working class people of Bermuda, if we did not challenge or question the decisions made by the government of the day, who time and time again forget the importance of consultation and do not consider the views of those affected most by their decisions? Prime example, my first topic, the airport redevelopment project. Interesting because with all that has been discussed with regard to the airport project, the people of Bermuda have yet to see how this whole agreement will benefit Bermuda and its people. Just briefly, there was a town hall meeting held on the 15th of this month, or last month, 15th of August at Devonshire Rec. And just briefly, towards the end of the meeting, there was a lady that approached the Minister of Finance, and she was very passionate about what she had to say to the Minister of Finance. I remember two things in particular what she said to the Minister of Finance, almost like yesterday. She was close enough to him, probably 5 feet away from him, and she said to the Minister of Finance, "It'll be over my dead body before you build that airport, that new airport using CCC and ACON." The other profound thing that she said to the Minister of Finance, she reminded the Minister of Finance what happened in March of this year, when the protesters locked the members of the House of Parliament out of the House of Parliament. And she said to him, "If we have to do it all over again, we will." That to me showed her passion about the way how she feels about this project, and there are so many other people around Bermuda that feel the exact same way. The other thing that I would say to you about that particular meeting at Devonshire, I also asked the minister three very important questions, because I think the people of Bermuda need to know. The first question I asked the minister, because in his slide presentation, he mentioned what commitment the country will have right now if we actually break the agreement. Because he did say at the town hall meeting in November, I think October, November last year at Panels Wharf, that we have now entered the penalty phase. Now, whilst I took the minister's point at that presentation, the minister never went on to say that even though we reached the penalty phase, and I think the figure he gave at that time was about $5 million, that was if we canceled the contract or canceled the agreement, we had to pay ACON and CCC about $5 million. He never said that if he canceled the contract, that it's also 100% or 150% on top of that. So when he made his presentation at Devonshire Rec, that's what was in the slide. So I asked the minister, I says, why does the goalpost seem like it continues to move? Because you never said that at the town hall meeting at Panels Wharf, because I was there. So I'm not telling you something that somebody told me. I was sitting right in the room when the minister made his presentation. The minister is yet to answer that question, why now we have this 100%, 150% if we now back away from the deal. The other question I asked the minister, I said, can you tell me why there's 9 schedules from A to I have been redacted and why the public has no access to them? The minister says, well, the reason why they've been redacted, there's a lot of confidential information about ACON and CCC. Well, there should be no confidential information about Bermuda. So whilst we do understand, and you would notice this example, when the People's Campaign wrote to the petty legislation in Canada to ask for to make the petty request, there was 2,000 emails that were sent to us. There was some stuff that was redacted. You couldn't see it. So my point to the ministers is that you can redact the stuff that concerns CCC and the stuff that concerns ACON, but the stuff that concerns us as a people, we should see. And we should see it before you sign it. Not after, before. His answer was, we'll be able to see there's 9 schedules once the government signs on the dotted line. And I listened to the tape again yesterday from Bernice. Yesterday I was listening to it again. And the minister made it clear that after the deal is signed, then we'll be able to see what's in those 9 schedules. And by that time, it will be too late. So having said that, ACON is looking to build a brand new airport for us for worth $250 million. We are going to be giving up, and this is the numbers that I'm putting out there, and the minister likes to call people number bombers, and he might refer to Larry Butcher like that, he might refer to me from time to time, but that's okay. We are going to be giving up over $700 million in revenue over the next 30 years. And for those of you who may not have paid attention to it, the budget report for this year, 16-17, and the Minister of Finance is telling us that after 30 years, we'll be entering into profit sharing with ACON, even though they would have already received, after 30 years, $700 million off our balance sheet. And the minister is saying that this is value for money. But I'm not sure how he comes to the conclusion that this is value for money, but you be the judge of whether it's value for money, because I don't think that it is. There are a number of documents that could be referred to. The Public Service International, PSI, produced a document that speaks about PPPs. At the town hall meeting at Devonshire Rec, the minister mentioned the hospital project, because that was also a PPP. And for those of you who haven't heard, we've also spoke about that PPP, because it was worth $247 million. But over 25 to 30 years, the hospital's got to pay back over $800 million. I don't know who does these numbers for these projects, because certainly when you talk about going to the bank and getting a loan and you got to pay it back, you understand sometimes you got to pay back 100%. But how do they come to these numbers is really, really, truly amazing. So the Public Service International introduced this document in 2014, and it tells you in that document why public-private partnerships don't work. And the author of that document is David Hall. And he informs us that, and here's what he says about PPPs, because we have to be very careful about what we're doing. Somehow the Bermuda still appears to be some kind of dumping ground. You got a bad education system, give it to Bermuda. Now you got this PPPs, so the minister is trying to say, well, this is the best way to go because the RFP process doesn't work. Listen to what he says about PPPs. PPPs originated as an accounting trick, a way around government's own constraints on public borrowing. This remains the overwhelming attraction for governments and international institutions. Well, listen to what he goes on and say. Just as companies like Enron had tried to conceal their true liabilities by moving them off the balance sheet, so governments started using PPPs as tricks, whereby public accounts intimate the creative accounting of some companies in the past. Sounds like somebody's cooking the books. So, well, this does sound familiar, as the Minister of Finance has assured us that the airport development project will not have any effect on Bermuda's balance sheet. In actual fact, it will. And here's why. The current revenues that we get from the airport, and it's about somewhere between $18 to $20 million profit every year. So they're 20, let's use the wrong number. The ministers now is going to take that $20 million off our balance sheet for the next 20 years and give it to Acorn. That's coming off our balance sheet. You can play with the numbers any way you like. The minister says, well, we can't borrow any money because the government can't afford to do that. The government went and borrowed $200 million last year from the Bank of Butterfield. $200 million from the Bank of Butterfield. It has to be paid back next year in 2017. So if this airport project is going to cost $259, $150 or whatever, why we couldn't have done the same thing? Why? Because certainly if we're going to borrow $200 million from the Bank of Butterfield and pay them $18 million over 2 years, we could have went somewhere and borrowed that money and paid them back in 5 years' time or 3 years' time and paid them back $300 million and save a whole lot of money. And that's a fact. So it's very concerning when the minister says, well, you know, you pay attention to those people who are giving you misinformation and all that, those sort of things. Untrue. Untrue. So, Mr. Hall goes on to describe, and listen to what he says about what happens when PPPs are not working. This model of PPP has proven over the last 15 years to be expensive and inefficient way of financing any infrastructure and diverts government spending away from other public services. We've got our youth, we've got our seniors. They conceal public borrowing while providing long-term guarantees and profits for private companies. That's what they do, and that's a fact. And I said this to the minister, Devin Chirac. I told the minister the document that he needs to take a read of. It says, despite the massive promotion effect, PPP struggle to provide more than a tiny portion of infrastructure investment in the world. Public finance remains the overwhelming predominant model worldwide, providing for well over 90% of infrastructure investment. So why are we using PPPs? Why? The government has made up its mind that they want to go that way, and then, of course, who tells them that they should or shouldn't? Last year, Labor Day, I even said that let's just give the minister a pass, that he didn't know that Acorn and CCC was running some kind of game on him. So let's give him a pass. You didn't know. Certainly once you found out, you should have said, you know what? Sorry, guys, this is not what we signed up for. We're backing away from the deal. But he embraced it. He embraced it. Certainly, I think it's very concerning, and it should be very concerning to every citizen of Bermuda. So, is that what Bermuda wants? I say no. The people have spoken. Their voices continue to go unheard. This is a bad deal for Bermuda. Once again, Bermuda labor is going to be at the disposal of foreigners. That brings me to my second topic, unemployment. Why are so many Bermudians not able to find employment in their own country? Why? 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 Just this year, according to the employment brief released by the Department of Statistics in June of this year, 2015, the total number of field jobs has declined by 52% from 2008 to 2015. The number of jobs still declined for a number of unions has declined by 48% over that same period. This should be of concern when Bermudians are losing jobs at a higher rate than their foreign counterparts. However, it gets worse. Allow me to explain. Under a PRP government, the jobs for Bermudians declined by 43%, while the jobs for non-Bermudians declined by 57%. Listen to these next set of startling numbers, because they should be very startling to you. However, under the OBA government, the total number of field jobs for Bermudians has declined by 72%, whilst the total field jobs for non-Bermudians have declined by 28%. That's a fact. Between 2013 and 2016, we have lost about 15 to 1,600 Bermudian jobs, total field jobs. And for non-Bermudians, I think it's like 560-something jobs. Clearly showing that more Bermudians have lost jobs under the current OBA government compared to the PRP government. There was a special edition of the Record's Voice that was produced on February 3rd, 2016, which stated the state of employment for Bermudan workers under the ABA government was reported at an all-time low. As I said a few moments ago, the Minister of Finance would have you believe that this was misinformation. But the information that I give you is factual information taken right from the government Department of Statistics. So if the minister's got a problem with the numbers, then he should go talk to the government department, because that's where the numbers are coming from. The Bermuda Job Market Employment Brief in 2016 also reported, this is just last year, 2015, the number of total field jobs by Bermudians declined by 257 jobs. In that same report, the number of total field jobs by non-Bermudians actually increased by 105. So we went down by 257, they went up by 105. We lost 156 jobs last year, but Bermudians lost, and these are total field jobs, 256. The minister have you believe the airport project is about jobs. But if the government is truly concerned about jobs for Bermudians, you tell us why, out of these 105 jobs, we couldn't get at least 90% done. Because you can't come and say, well, these are all top-level jobs, so we don't have no qualified Bermudians for them. We know full well that those jobs are spread across all the 16 major industries that make up Bermuda's economy. So it's kind of interesting that the government is choosing to say, well, where you can get jobs and where you're not going to get jobs. And if you have a qualified Bermudian, they should be able to work and get a job before a non-Bermudian gets a job. So you tell me how this government has allowed this to happen to Bermudians, whilst the business sector continues to overlook Bermudians during the hiring practices. Simply not acceptable. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, in our glorious fight for civil rights, we must guard against being fooled by false slogans, such as the right to work. It's a law to rob us of our civil rights and our job rights. Its purpose is to destroy labor unions and the collective bargaining, which unions have improved wages and working conditions for everyone. Wherever these laws have been passed, wages are lower. Job opportunities are fewer, and there are no civil rights. We do not intend to let them do this to us. We demand this fraud be stopped. Our weapon is our vote. Our weapon, OBA, is our vote. In March of 2016, people took to the streets to protest the Immigration and Protection Amendment Act 2016 by the ABA government, who failed to follow the consultation process and were prepared once again to put Bermudians second. As a result of the people standing firm and demanding the removal of the bill, the following was agreed. The Labor Advisory Council, LAC, will work concurrently on the bullet points below, while a consultative working group comprised of key stakeholders will be set up to discuss issues related to the bill. Here's what the LAC is going to be working on. Amendments to work permit policies to address the living wage and training requirements for Bermudians. Cracking down further on unscrupulous business tactics that undermine Bermudian labor. That's an interesting one. Cracking down further. Now, I don't know what that implies to you, but what it implies to me is that they've done some cracking down, now they've got to do some further cracking down. Because it appears that some employers out there, and you've heard us say this before, that we have some very good employers in this country, but there are some employers who do, and the government's saying, that this is our word, language, not mine. They've got some unscrupulous businesses that taxes that they're using that are undermining Bermuda labor, and they need to try to fix it. But bullet point number 3, working more with international business sector to provide summer job opportunities for Bermuda. Continue to work on government's efforts and similar to provide summer job opportunities. I will conclude by saying that now as a people we must hold the government accountable to uphold all the above work to ensure that Bermudians come first in their country. Third point. This is a big one. And the reason why it's big is because we will no doubt open Pandora's box. And the reason why I'm calling it Pandora's box, it's a box that needs to be opened. This addresses the wage disparity between black, white, and others. Yeah, it's going to be a hard conversation. But as I said to the Minister Fay before they moved him to another ministry, when you're talking about having a conversation about a living wage, I hope you know what is going to happen. And certainly, I would say to you that it should be obvious that the quality of life for our middle class and working class has been held at a complete disadvantage when it comes to wages and salaries that they earn compared to that of whites and others. This information is not Chris Furbert's information. It's not the BIE's information. This information can be found in the Household Expenditure Survey reports of 1993, 2004, and 2013. Now that the government has decided to address the living wage for Bermuda, I certainly hope that all stakeholders will participate in this process. I look forward to making sure that our country will start to address the imbalance in wages earned between blacks, whites, and others. It should be understood that this will not happen overnight. However, it will be up to all of us to make sure it does happen. The idea of a living wage is that workers and their families should be able to afford a basic but decent lifestyle that is considered acceptable by society. At its current level of economic development, workers and their families should be able to live above poverty level and be able to participate in social and cultural life. This is defined by the International Labour Organization, ILO. Interesting, because when we look at the next point, the next thing I'll say to you, and I don't have to read that, this is somebody who works right in Bermuda, category that works right in Bermuda. In 1974, this individual was a depot foreman for the Bermuda government, and his entire wage covered the household expenditure. The household expenditure was $215. His wage was $226. So his wage covered the whole expenditure in 1974. However, that same worker in 2013, when we compare the household expenditure, his disposable income is now minus 29%. And if the current trend continues, by December 2016, his disposable income will be minus 33%. That's why the conversation needs to be held concerning wage disparity. Now, here are some very startling figures for you. The Department of Statistics, and that's why I said to you a moment ago, this is not the BIU's numbers, these are not some other numbers that we got from another accounting firm. The Department of Statistics has published 3 reports to date. The Household Expenditure Survey, as I said a few minutes ago, the 1993, 2004, and 2013. These reports reveal some startling information on wage disparity between blacks, whites, and others. Some of you may have seen some of this information already, because we produce a special edition of the Workers' Voice on a living wage, where it says, and as I said, this information is taken right from the Household Expenditure Survey in those 3 years, the wage disparity between black males, whites, and other males in 1982, they were $13,000 apart. In 1993, they're now $41,000 apart. In 2004, they're $49,000 apart. And the latest report, which is 2013, they are now $76,000 apart. We're at 16. This report, you won't see another one to probably 2013 or 2014, because I think they were produced every 10 years. If you look at the time frame, 93, 2004, and then 2013. So the disparity is increasing at an alarming rate, and should be very concerning to all black males, as we are now at 2016, and this can only ascertain that this number continues to be on the rise. We ain't left out the black females. The race disparity between black females, white, and other females. This one's even worse than the other one. In 1982, they were $625 apart. Less than $1,000 they were apart, $625. By the time 1993 comes around, they are $7,240 apart. By 2004, they're $35,000 apart. And up until 2013, similar to the men, they are now $75,000 apart. Now, I don't know what's happening to what's going on here, but certainly this should be very concerning. Because when you look at the numbers that I just presented, what should be quite obvious from these figures is that most, and I do say most, not all, most whites and others, qualities of life are not being affected by the increases in the cost of living. So you're probably asking yourself the question, why did the race disparity between blacks, whites, and others get to be so far apart? What happened? One could come to the conclusion that between the mid-1980s, between the mid and late 1980s, the disposable income for blacks was really affected because international business entered Bermuda. Interesting. So whilst, on the other hand, and it says, however, when we look at the disposable income for most whites and others, over this same period of time, their earnings have increased significantly. So when we look at the figures, as I just presented, the difference in wages is obvious. Why Bermuda has, as a country, must do what we can to fix the disparity in incomes between the races. Interesting, because other individuals from other countries are also chiming in on what Bermuda should do for a living wage. Lord Michael Hastings, a notable black Briton, placed sixth on this year's list of top black British business leaders, and a global head of corporate citizenship at KPMG stated in the World Gazette article dated May 20th, 2016, Bermuda should introduce a living wage law. He's saying we should make it a law for a living wage. Now, as I said to the minister when we had our first meeting, we had a problem getting employers to look at the workman's compensation and change that from $170, which has been that way since 1970. And we've been fighting to try to get that up to $500, and we ain't achieved that yet. So this one here, it's going to be a tall order, but it's got to be addressed. Lord Hastings goes on to say that Bermuda should introduce, as I said, I do apologize, let's move on. A living wage is not a transfer of wealth from rich to poor. It's an investment every community needs to make to empower dignity, and the poor will benefit. It will raise their opportunity and raise their potential. We are spending billions of dollars to squash the dangers around us. It's a great investment to invest in the poor. We have to change the paradigm. We have to change the view that money isn't available. The 1% now control more wealth than the 99% put together. Economists like Bermuda, which are wealthy, are also beacon economists. The reason Bermuda is a beacon is that there is so much wealth contained here. This is somebody who don't live here. He is a well-established businessman, and is telling us the reason Bermuda is a beacon is that there is so much wealth contained here. You wouldn't think so. Bermuda should lead in setting benchmarks. It should also take the lead in investment in the world, in funds in how funds are allocated. When money is fluid, there should be an opportunity to leverage from others. Lord Hastings concluded. Well, let's just skip. We can go. Let's go to the next point. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 37th President of the United States, also had a quote about a living wage. Here's what he says. No business which depends on the existence of paying less than a living wage to its workers has any right to continue in this country. By a living wage, I mean more than a burst of subsistence. I mean a wage that is decent living. So we're not just, maybe Bermuda just started talking about it, but other countries have been having discussions about a living wage for quite a while. True individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence. People who are hungry, out of a job, are the stuff that dictators are made of. In my humble opinion, the corn tax structure in Bermuda needs to change and have to benefit us as a whole. The Bermuda government should look at removing the corn payroll tax of $750,000 for large corporations and consider a corporate tax on company profits. This suggestion was made by Mr. Sharman, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Bermuda-based Endurance Specialty Holdings Limited. This would eliminate the corn payroll tax system that is currently paid by employers and employees. This would allow those small businesses who are struggling to remain viable by providing 10% on their bottom line. It would also allow the employees to retain their 6% portion of payroll tax. We say that we want to diminish our debt, but how serious are we? This will be a step in the right direction by eliminating the government debt. Are we going to leave a legacy of dismay and hopelessness for our younger generation, who clearly sees the unfairness of the current tax regime? At this point in time, I'd like to ask all the young adults who are under the age of 35 to please stand. Now, table number 2 and table number 3 continue to stand. Table number 2 and table number 3, the BIU Executive Board made a decision this year for our Labor Day banquet that we have 20 divisions in the BIU. So we asked each division to select a member who was under the age of 35, send them to the banquet. We'll pay for the tickets. So these 2 tables were paid for by the BIU to allow our members to come and participate, because as you can see, we're looking for younger leadership. Thank you. So please be encouraged to pursue leadership roles within your community, exclusive of this great organization, the BIU. We look forward to working with you in whatever way we can. Just know that we are here for you as your village. There's no way I can move off of this point that I'm making without saying just a couple of words about Brother Jason Havett. And the reason why I want to just say a couple of words about Brother Jason, because it's interesting if Bermuda has watched Brother Jason's leadership of the BPSU since he's become president. And remember, you're never too young or too old to learn. And I appreciate Brother Jason coming and asking for advice from time to time. And just like, he would come and ask me certain things, I would call him and ask him certain things. And I think it's very important for us to understand what our role is. Earlier, you saw the presentation that we done about the BIU. You heard the voice of Dr. Gordon talking about, and that was 1946, 70 years ago. 70 years ago. The same things that Dr. Gordon and our forefathers were dealing with 70 years ago, we're dealing with the same things today. So it continues. So we just need to make sure and understand that just like we are the corn caretakers, tomorrow you may be the corn caretakers, and you got to make sure that you do what is right, what is just, and what is fair. As young adults, we sometimes bang our heads trying to figure out why, if there is, such a big gap between young and old. I do not believe that either group is doing enough to heal what appears to be a divide. The positive efforts of our young people need to be highlighted. We should be looking to offer guidance wherever possible. Not just words, but examples. Not just words, but examples. There is a youth parliament group that engaged in meaningful discussion and debate about working in unity and community first, getting first-hand experience in the field of politics. There's a whole, the Royal Gazette and Bernice and everybody's can have this speech, so, to shortcut, maybe I'll skip some of this stuff right here. But I want to go to particularly the part where it speaks about the age group has also been affected by a downturn in employment. Total jobs for workers filled under the age of 35 in 2010, there were 2,039 jobs held by those workers under the age of 25. In 2015, that number is now 1,404, a decline of 635 jobs, or a 30% decrease. Before closing, I would like to reflect back on the month of March 2016, when history was once again made by the people of Bermuda, by the workers of Bermuda. During the month of March 2016, thousands of workers gathered on the grounds of the House of Assembly to protest against the OBA's decision to amend the Immigration and Protection Amendment Act without consultation with those of us who would be affected by those amendments. At one point during the protesters locked arms and prevented the members of Parliament from entering the building. The protesters decided that since the members of Parliament, who were elected to represent the people's business, had decided to ignore the people, we decided to lock them out of the House. So, because they were not listening to the people. And after a week of protests, of course, the government removed the legislation from the order paper and agreed to have consultation take place with all. This was a true example of people power, proving that they are more powerful than the people in power. So in closing, it has truly been an honor to be the keynote speaker this evening. I trust that I have given you food for thought on the topics, on the issues that I have presented this evening, that you should be asking yourself, what role am I prepared to play in the future of our country from today forward? Let us not become a complacent community that is selfish when it comes to the needs of others. The time has come for us to create a pathway to unity that will truly bring back the unity to our community. I thank you.